Hello and welcome to this episode of Wi-Fi Friends. I'm Cameron and I'm joined by John.
Hey there, how's it going? Howdy ho there.
Howdy ho, howdy, hey, how's it going, John? What's up with you? What's going on?
Man, you know what is bringing me down?
What's bringing you down, friend?
I think I figured it out, because it's been a little gloomy.
I agree.
And, I think it's because the weather has been alternating between like 90 degrees
Jesus.
and then it starts raining in like the middle of the day. And so your body, you just don't know what's going on, man. You know?
Um,
Your whole world's in a tailspin.
we've also been having weather things here, but it's just been like a heat wave. Like it's not
Mhm.
very. Wales isn't a super hot country,
Yeah.
as you probably remember.
I mean, it has a lot of hot boys, but
Yeah, a lot of hot boys, but not a lot of hot skies.
yeah.
I don't know where I was going with that one.
God, I should really write like tourism stuff.
Yeah, get Wales. Come for the hot boys. Stay for the Welsh cakes? Question mark. But yeah, it's kind of a heat wave here. So, and it does. This is the most old lady thing we've ever said on the podcast, but it sure does affect your mood. It's weird
Yeah.
how the weather does that. So it's a different issue. But you guys get a lot of rain in the south.
Yeah, Alabama's really weird because don't need to print that out. My cat was jumping on the keyboard. My Lord, about to start printing out web pages over here.
Well,
Yeah, Alabama's weird. Because summertime, like, have you ever heard the phrase summer showers?
no, I don't believe I have, but I can probably infer what it means.
Yeah, it rained. Yeah, not as bad as when I lived in Florida, because Florida, literally every day it rained
Oh my
at some.
God.
I'm sure you got some of that while you guys
Yeah.
were.
We would enter rides just for the air conditioning. It would be like, oh my God, I cannot survive this anymore. This is impossible heat. I'm melting. Let's go on Dinosaur. And then we would come out of Dinosaur and it would be a monsoon. Like, what
Yeah.
happened while we were in Dinosaur? Did we actually travel in time? Question mark. But yeah, that's kind of my experience in Florida. So it is like I get what you mean by the crazy weather.
Yeah. And so, we're just trying to keep on keeping on.
I've been in a weird, peculiar situation recently that I wanted to speak to you about. Because I don't know if it's something you have experience with. I assume it is. I don't know your living situation in and out. But for those who don't know, Jen, my wife, and I, we currently live at my parents' house because they're very gracious. They allow us to live here rent free. We've done so for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years now. And it's really nice. It's really nice to not have to pay rent. It's really nice to, you know, live without having to worry, month to month. But at a certain point, it gets to a point where you're like, hey, we're married. We want to kind of start a life, and we want to take responsibility for our own things. So we've been looking for a place to stay, a place to call our own. And I was like, well, we could save up for ages and ages and stay, in my parents' house for another 2 years and maybe buy a place, and get a mortgage. But I don't know. It's like there's only so much time I could spend. Like, I don't know. I could probably stay for another 2 years, but I just kind of wanted to get out there. And Jen's got a good job now. She's teaching. So we were looking for a place to rent. Now, John, do you have any experience renting a place? I assume you do.
Oh, yes, I have rented a lot of places.
Okay, so maybe I
I've
should have
moved
gone
around
to
a little
you.
bit.
Maybe I should have gone to you, but maybe it's a different situation in America. But I guess capitalism is the same no matter where you are. Um,
Oh, yeah, money, 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 man.
I was under the impression, and yes, I'm a big child. I will be the first to admit that I'm a big child and I see the world in a naive way. But I was under the impression that if you could afford to pay the rent, you should be able to just move in. If there's a place and no one else wants it, and you guys
Oh,
are the people who want
honey.
it, I was like, Jen, it's fine. We'll just rent. We've got the money. Let's just do it. And then she's like, okay, we now have to begin the process. And I'm like, what the fuck do you mean begin the process? And dude, I did not realize that this many application forms even existed on the planet.
Oh, it's disgusting. It is disgusting.
Why do I have
So
to?
do they do, I'm curious, do they
Okay.
do credit checks for
So
you for,
luckily, um, well, actually not luckily, because that implies that I don't have good credit score. My credit score is pretty much like completely average because I've never done anything to warrant, I've never had a credit
yeah.
card. I've never had a loan to pay back or anything. So I've pretty much nothing.
Oh,
But
Jesus,
but
God.
yeah, I know. But Jenny has a good credit score. Because she's done a couple of things to just boost her credit score. She's paid for a mobile phone for quite a while and different stuff. I don't want to get into the logistics of how to get a good credit score. There are better podcasts out there, more educational podcasts.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I mean, I could get Christina on the show if we wanted to we could do a show with Christina and Jenny, and they can do a whole episode about credit and
yeah.
budgeting and all that stuff.
But luckily here, I don't know if it's just the people that we went through or if it's just not a thing in Britain. They don't check your credit score. But what they do, is they want to know what your employers think of you. So you have to give them references and you have to send them, the contact information for the people who are currently your bosses and currently employ you. And then those people who employ you then go, yeah, I think this person is fit enough to have a flat. And I'm like, I work in a cinema. My boss is a nice guy, but he has no idea whether or not I'm fit enough to live in a flat. Like, what has
Yeah,
that got to do
wait,
with anything?
that is so weird. I've heard it. There are some places like nicer places that want like references, but nine times out of ten, they check your credit score. They
Mm,
check the last 3 months of your pay
yeah, yeah, yeah.
because they want to get an average of what you usually make, whatever.
Yeah, they did that for
And
me.
then as long as you pass, background checks and all that stuff, like you're good to go.
Yeah, we did the pay thing. Luckily, the pay thing, um, it was weird because it all went through fine, which is why I'm talking about it now. I'm the type of person that if I was worrying about this, I wouldn't be speaking about it. I would just be silently worrying. But they did this thing where they were like, can we see the last 3 months of your pay? And I've talked about this on the podcast. I went to America recently for 2.5 weeks. And the only way I could do it is I just went unpaid. I was like, listen, I'll just take the hit. I'll go to America. I saved up the money. I couldn't go and take it as a holiday. So I was like, I just said to my boss, can I just take these days off? He was like, yeah, that's fine, but you won't be paid. So as such, it was funny because I had 3 months of pay and I sent it all to them. And the first and the first and second month, the pay was just my average pay. It looks fine, oh, you can rent this place, it'll be fine. And then there was just like almost nothing in the third pay packet. It looks like, obviously they didn't think this because they give me, the approval. But I was worried that it would look like I lost my job. I was just pretending I still had it.
Yeah.
So it was stressful though, dude. It was weird that a weird realization that I guess, a lot of people who are listening right now are gonna go, oh my god, Cameron's such a big kid. But I just assumed like, if you're willing to pay and you're not a criminal or anything, then like why can't you just move in? It's such a weird, convoluted situation, and I don't know. I've been dealing with that, and then now it's the situation of waiting for the moving day, and also how do I get all of my shit that's here over there? Like that is just another headache. That is just another
I
thing.
so there's eventually young Cameron, we're gonna have to have this talk. This is a talk that's maybe been brought up before with your lovely wife.
Okay.
It's the talk that I had to have with my lovely wife.
Okay.
It's hard. Oh God, I'm starting to tear up just thinking about it. It's just purging some of those
Oh no.
things.
Oh no.
I know, I know, but it was weird. So like this is actually kind of funny. So our last move in when we
Mm.
moved back here to
Mm-hmm.
Alabama. Um, we were living in a house before. Now we were moving into an apartment, so it's much smaller.
Mm-hmm.
So we were just like, oh, we do not want to take all this stuff with us. And I was just looking at it. I'm like, I love all of these things. They're all like my children. And now I could not tell you what I threw away and what I got rid of. It's so weird, like how much emphasis and stuff, especially because like we're very similar.
Yeah.
Because that's why we're friends.
Yeah.
Um, we like to get things and collect things that like
Yes.
showcase our likes and our interests and stuff. And there's like an emotional attachment to that, of
Mm.
like, oh, but this isn't just a figure. This is a figure from my favorite. How are people gonna know that this is my favorite thing if I do not have this thing?
Yeah, yeah, and it's like you said, it runs deeper than just enjoying the thing sometimes, and sometimes it runs deeper when it shouldn't. Like I
Yeah,
have issues of Deathstroke. Now I love Deathstroke, and I own a lot of comics that I do enjoy to read and reread of Deathstroke, but I also own a lot of Deathstroke comics that I just own because they exist and because I feel like as a
yeah,
Deathstroke fan I should feel like there is a Deathstroke comic. I believe it was the first annual of his first like original run. But it's one of his annuals. It's either the first or the second. And for those who don't know, in annuals, it's like a special. Sometimes they'll do a special comic, like a special side story or a spin-off. And all the story is Deathstroke in the future. So it's what if the world went to shit, it's an apocalypse, and Slade is like in the future, and they were like flying cars and stuff. It's kind of like Fallout, but with Deathstroke the Terminator. I don't remember what happens in the story. It obviously didn't compel me enough that I'm like, oh, this is one of the best stories of all time. But I don't think I could ever let go of that comic. And I'm going to have to one day, because it gets to a point where you have to just own comics that you like, and not just own comics to own them. But like
yeah.
that's
That's
like...
what I had to figure out because I decreased my comic collection a lot
Mm.
this last move.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yeah, I know it was really weird. And then I was just like, wow, why do I have this random like this trade of Spider-Man from Civil War? Like, why?
It is. I'm looking right now. I'm looking at my DVD rack. I've got lots and lots of DVDs, and a lot of people are just like, "Why do you
Yeah,
have DVDs?" I like DVDs. Okay, it's what I grew up on. I know that digital exists now. I have Netflix, but I like DVDs. But that being said, as much as I just defended DVDs, I'm looking right now at Death Note Volume 3, and I know for a fact that I do not own Volume 1, 2, or 4.
oh God, I used to do that all the time.
I
I'm
don't
like, well,
know.
here's season 5 and season 3 of Supernatural on DVD.
Yeah, I have. This is a reference to an older podcast. I have Being Human season 3, which was that show that I try to get you into. um, Not season 1 or 2. So yeah, it's weird. You like, I feel like the type of people that we are. Some might say geeks. Others might more accurately say obsessed. We kind of sometimes collect these things, and they have this value to us that when we try to explain out loud, we start to realize that it kind of falls apart.
Yeah, it was something I realized recently. I think it was actually our trip when we went to Wales.
Yeah.
Um, we had obviously gotten some money during that time period for us to be able to make that trip. And
Mm-hmm.
we bought like some furniture and like some other stuff around that time frame. And then after that trip, we kind of like we had this realization we're just like, man, why did we buy some of this stuff? Like, I just want to do more like trips and vacations and more
Yeah.
like actual who knew like how fulfilling and stuff like getting out and seeing the world is other rather than just owning things.
Mm.
Experiences over um physical, items.
Yeah, and it's funny because there's so much evidence in everyone's lives. If they look back, the memories you have, like the memories from my trip to Amsterdam is a big one for me. That me and my friends went on a trip to Amsterdam a couple of years back, and like the amount of good memories and good stories that I have from that, compared to something like, I'm trying to think of something. This laptop. Like, I mean, this laptop does allow me to record this podcast, which is good. But like, I could have got a less expensive laptop, and it would have done the same thing. It doesn't have those memories and those amazing stories that will be carried from now till probably when I die. It's weird, but like for some reason we think, instead of saving money and organizing this big trip that is inevitably going to lead to like amazing stories and ultimately hopefully make you a happier person, you buy these things on impulse, in Amazon. You go, oh, this $10 fucking Switch dock accessory will make my life infinitely better. you know
Well,
like
But
I
then that's also a really weird thing because I think it's just a product of the time that I was like growing up in.
mm,
Um, but then it's like also probably being like a kid who didn't really have a lot of friends growing up.
mm.
But then sometimes I think back to memories though, and I'm like, man, but like sitting down and playing like Final Fantasy X for the first time,
Uh, yes, I think there's a gray
it's
area.
interesting. Yeah, there's definitely a gray area. As I grow older, I think I value experience um over like buying things, whatever. But I guess now like it's not just like, oh, I want to buy this like these clothes or this whatever. It's like I want to buy something that's going to make me feel and make me, like have an experience rather than
Yeah,
just buying something to buy something.
and I think the reason there's a gray area is because, like you said, growing up, it was like we were probably one a generation that was like the masses were like grown on video games. Like obviously there was lots of video games before we were around and before we were kids. But like I felt like when we were kids, everyone had like some kind of system, or some
Yeah.
kind of video game. Maybe not everyone. Maybe that was just all the friends I was, around. But I think video games are interesting because you can have these experiences and these stories and these like memories and like, oh my god, I did this and it was this and this, like you would from a trip, from
Yeah,
a
because you're
life
an active
experience.
participant.
Exactly, and it's why
Yeah.
that video games are different to music and movies. There are very few movies where I go, shit, I remember vividly the first time I saw this movie. I remember the
Yeah.
movies and I remember feeling the way in the movies, but like there's maybe like a handful. Like I remember The Dark Knight because it was such an impactful thing on me. Um, I remember Perks and a Wallflower because that was like a big moment in my relationship
Oh
with
yeah.
Jen. But like with video games, there are so many where, because like you said, you're an active participant, so you're experiencing things. Now it depends on the video game. I never really felt this way with like side scrollers, where beat 'em ups or anything, or fighting games. But
Yeah.
then the fighting games, you could argue that you do have those memories when you and three other friends are, up until 3 o'clock in the morning fighting. And I have these memories of like my friends and I crying, laughing because one friend was like pulling this move in a fighting game and it was destroying us all, and we just couldn't take it, and we were like screaming and stuff. Like video games are different. I think they're like in between material possession and experience. They're like this
Yeah.
kind of like middle ground, which is quite. I think it's hard for people to understand unless you have that experience. Like,
Yeah. Unless you have like one of the memories yourself, because I could tell you about the first time that I played The Last of Us, and I was
mm,
sitting there and I had my headphones in and I just started like my wife and my mom were like just sitting on the couch doing whatever while I was playing on the TV, and I just start kind of crying and they're like, "What is going on?" And I'm like, "What?" That game came out in 2013. Okay, she died. I'm like, "She's dead."
yeah.
I'm like, the first 5 minutes of the game.
Oh my
And they're like, "Why are
gosh.
you playing this if it's making you cry?" And I'm like, all right, I'm not going to get into that whole discussion.
I'm going to talk about this on a podcast 15 years later. Maybe not
Yeah,
15 years, but
yeah,
yeah, like I mean, even silly stuff. Like I remember my friend Lewis. I used to go over his house every Friday as kids, and we would play co-op San Andreas. And there was this is the lamest thing ever, but like, and this is what I love about this podcast. I know I can say it to you, and you'll be like, "Yeah, I've been there." Like, we would not break any laws. Not like we're not like doing those things where you like try not to break laws. It's just that wasn't what the enjoyment was. We played enough of GTA where you break a bunch of the laws. We would just go. We would get in a boat. We'd have to steal the boat, so we'd break a couple of laws. But you steal a
yeah.
boat, and one of you would drive it, and the other would just sit on the outside of the boat. Like it was one of those boats where there's like a back of it, and you could sit on the outside. And we would just for hours. We would just drive around in this weird co-op GTA experience. We would sail around the islands of San Andreas, and we would just talk. And we just talk. We wouldn't talk about GTA.
Yeah.
We talk about life. We talk about girls. We talk about like oh, I hope that one day she looks at me in a way that makes, when she talks to me. Like we would have genuine human conversations, but instead of doing it in ways that you see in movies where like kids, speak, in such a candid, weird way that they don't speak in real life, we would be shyly talking about it while pretending to be concentrating on the game because we were too young to just talk about it like you would as an adult.
You needed like a mediator.
Yeah, you needed an excuse to talk. Be like, oh, I'm so bored. Let's talk about girls. It's just a joke, just for fun. But let's talk about girls because really, I'm super self-conscious and I actually care a lot about these things. But yeah, I mean, that was a nice discussion. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. Oh man, that could be a whole topic, just video game memories.
Oh my gosh, we'll get into it. We'll have to get some guests eventually.
Oh, that'd be good. Yeah, eventually,
So, John, what is your moving on? What is your nice current favorite situations going on today? What are you
Yeah,
watching?
I got a couple things. Going on. If you followed my socials, you've heard of these things. First thing I'm going to talk about. Actually, I'm going to start with NoClip.
Yeah, this I don't know what is. I don't know what this is.
Do you know who Danny O'Dwyer is?
No.
He used to. Oh God, I believe he used to work for GameSpot.
Okay.
And then he worked for Kind of Funny Games for a little while.
I know.
And he has this channel called NoClip, which is it's a channel where they do video game documentaries.
Ooh.
So they go to a studio, they shoot, they interview, whatever, and they do like 30-minute to hour-long documentaries about all these different broad subjects. They did one about the history of Bethesda Studios.
Ooh.
So the people who make Elder Scrolls and Fallout, they did a whole like from their beginnings all the way up to this newest game that's coming out.
Okay.
And they're beautifully, wonderfully shot and edited, and oh God, the way that they tell somebody else's story. It's like it gets me like jazz. Like I really want, like that's the type of content that I want to make, is how it looks, how that looks, and how that sounds, and just like the feel that you get watching that is kind of like what I want stuff that I make to look and sound like.
That's a really good feeling. I like when you're experiencing something, and not only does it make you happy and like, oh yeah, I like watching this, but also it inspires you.
Yeah.
It's like
so they're amazing. I would highly suggest, if you're into like Fallout and stuff like that, the history of Bethesda one's really interesting. But then there's also one that I really like that was about Horizon Zero Dawn.
Ooh.
And it's about how Guerrilla Games was this company that made the Killzone franchise. And that was all they'd done to doing one of the most popular like open world RPG games, which seems like such a departure from what they've been doing beforehand.
It does. I mean, I remember when that game first got revealed at E3, and I was like, dude, this looks amazing. And then it was like from the guys who made Killzone. Part of me, and I feel bad, but like part of me was like, oh, okay. Because like Killzone was one of those franchises where it was like, oh, this Killzone, it comes out every year. It's a Call of Duty at this point.
Yeah.
But dude, they really like it felt like they were like, no, we're gonna make something creatively, artistically, like strong and
yeah, and it's so interesting just hearing their story and hearing like how they got to that point.
Does it talk at all about their Kojima partnership, or is it a bit before that?
I don't think so.
Because
there's no like mention of Kojima. Yeah.
Okay, there's an interesting thing happening now where Hideo Kojima loved that game so much, and obviously now he got cut from Konami, so he had lots of resources, missing. So now making Death Stranding, he employed their help, and it's kind of like a collaboration between those guys and his studios, Kojima Productions, and so much so that the engine they used for Horizon Zero Dawn is like a beefed up version of that is what they're using on Death Stranding.
Oh, cool.
And it's called, this is crazy, I'm just going to get into this really quick just because this is a fun story. It's called the Decima engine, and if you look at the logo, it's this like weird shape. It looks like an on button, but it's based on this port that used to be in Japan, where they would they would collaborate with a lot of other countries um, to create new trade and create new like amazing things and art and stuff. So Kojima wanted to do this thing where, because obviously I think are they a Swedish or Icelandic company? There's something like that.
They are Guerrilla Games. I want to say Swedish, but
Mm.
I'm not 100%. If you want, I'll watch the No Clip documentary about them, and you will find
Yeah,
out.
exactly. But he loved them so much, and he wanted to make this weird collaboration. So apparently, again, they haven't spoiled much because they don't want to spoil the game. But apparently, the game is like it's built by these two studios working together, sending each other different stuff, and it just really fascinates me. It's just such a cool, so much so that you can find little Easter eggs for Death Stranding inside Horizon Zero Dawn. So there's like a necklace that Norman Reedus' character wears in Horizon and stuff. It's crazy. It's mad.
That is really cool. Yeah.
So what
So,
else have you been
yeah, I was say
enjoying?
I have a couple this week. I think it's because of the gap.
Yeah,
I've been able
yeah.
to like we ebb and flow between a couple of different things.
Mm.
My next one is one that literally started today, so it's gonna be very quick. It's
Okay.
this game called Hollow Knight on Switch.
Ooh.
Dude, oh my God, this game, it's the words I've used to describe it is hauntingly beautiful.
Wow.
It's like got this nice, like eerie kind of vibe, but it's not scary. It's just it almost reminds me of like a Tim Burton movie, I guess, but not in the annoying way.
Yeah,
I feel like older Tim Burton.
mm, from what I've seen, it's weird because it's like it looks good, but it also is simplistic in a way.
Yeah,
I think the colors are simplistic, the art isn't. I guess is a way to
yeah,
describe
it's super detailed, but the way that they use just it's a game that's dark but doesn't feel dark.
it. Mm,
So it's a game that's encased in shadow and darkness, but where everything is also easily seen and bright at the same time. It's very interesting. Like I'm very early on in the game, but it's a Metroidvania type game
yeah.
where you're going across the map. You're going like, oh, I'm going over here, go all the way over here to grab this thing so I can go all the way that way. Right now I haven't actually gotten anything new, but I feel like I've circled this entire thing. So I don't know what I'm doing.
That's the thing
But
with
it controls
Metroidvanias.
so fluidly. Oh my God, just every button press just feels good.
Wow. I think it might be the one to get me into Metroidvanias because I've always been put off by the circling back and going around and I gotta find that one power up, you know. And
Yeah.
I think in recent years, like what I've heard from Hollow Knight, and other Metroidvanias coming out now, they've kind of ironed out the kinks. You know, in the old Metroidvanias, there would be like these weird things where you had to do such a specific set of actions, and there's no way to know how to do them unless you like read a guide or just experiment for hours and hours. Whereas I think in Hollow Knight, it's supposed to be a bit more. It drives you to where you want to go. But
Very much so. And it's a game that, like, I'm very curious about the lore.
mm,
Just from the little bit that I've gotten, I'm like, I just want to deep dive into this world and its like history and what's going on. But it's one of those games where I'm just like, yeah, I know why I died. That was my fault. Like, I'm not blaming the game for anything. I'm like, every time I die, I'm like, yeah, I know. I probably shouldn't have gone there when I went with that little life or whatever. Or I shouldn't have gone and tried to attack that guy. I know I probably could have beaten him.
yeah, I totally get it. I feel like that with most games, to be honest, because I'm very bad at games. But you can very much tell when a game is designed so that it's like, hey, you know, there was no glitches, there was no overpowered bosses. It was literally just you rushed, or you didn't think, or you didn't stop, or you did stop. You know, that's usually my case. I see
Yeah.
something, I freak out, and then I fall into a pit of spikes.
And my last, but not least, my
Mm.
last little thing is Boruto Naruto Next Generation.
Oh Jesus!
I I was bored sitting at home,
Yeah.
and for some reason, my brain was like thinking about Boruto because
How?
it's weird. I don't know. I have a long Crunchyroll queue that I'm constantly going away from and watching different shows.
Mm.
Like I have so many shows on there that I haven't started, but I keep on watching stuff that isn't on my queue. So I was sitting there and I don't know what made me start thinking about it. I think I probably just saw it on the side. No, I saw because there was an episode recently. Crunchyroll would put out like a GIF or a video from the
Okay.
most recent episode, and it was this really great choreographed fight. It
Okay.
was super just. I forgot how much I love Naruto fights because just the way the animation and pacing and a lot of the stylings of just the martial arts and stuff, it's just so crisp and smooth.
Yeah, some of the
And I was
best
like,
fights were really, really good to watch. There were the
yeah,
odd, there were a couple fights in the show. I mean, usually in the fillers where you're like, what is going on right now? But the
yeah.
good ones were good.
And I was just like, you know what? I haven't given this thing a chance. I can't say I don't like it if I don't even, this
That's
was a
true. I
Twilight
respect that.
situation. My wife made me watch Twilight because she's like, you can't talk shit about it if you've never watched it.
Same, same.
And I'm like, you're right. You're right. And then I was right. Anyway, so I started watching it and I was like, man, for somebody who stopped watching Naruto around the five Kage summit, so like in Shippuden, but definitely not the end.
Hmm.
Um, I'm just really invested in this world again, and I don't know exactly how or why.
I had a question because this is something that, for those who don't know, oh my gosh, apologies. This is something that we do. Sometimes we'll have a list beforehand of kind of like some topics we're going to hit on, and I saw Boruto on here, and there's a question that I wanted to ask you as soon as I saw that up until now doing the podcast. Does it feel, the first couple of episodes of Boruto, do they feel like the fun, whimsical feeling you got when you watched the first couple of episodes of the original Naruto show? If you remember
I
when he's like painting on the Kage's
Yeah,
face and running around, like, because that's how I feel like they might hook me back. Because that is like a time that maybe I'm just too nostalgic for, but I really
yeah.
enjoyed that kind of tone.
So what I love is that the beginning of the show is an immediate flash forward, which I
Ooh,
think is pretty cool because it tells me at least, hey, we have a plan.
yeah.
And that's always my fear with shonen a lot of
Oh my
times
god,
is
yeah.
that they go on for so long that I'm like, I don't know if you meant to go for this long. Like I feel like Bleach. I feel like that happened with Bleach, where it
Mm.
just kept going, and I'm like, you really should have stopped by now.
Yeah, like Bleach, Bleach always felt to me like I was like, you wanted to be one thing, and then you got so popular that you decided to become another thing. Like
Yeah.
it felt like it wanted to be like a school drama with also like zombies and demons and stuff, but then it just had to kept going, kept going, kept going.
But so the interesting thing is I am like, I want to say 15 episodes in maybe.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. And they still have not formed their first team. They still haven't graduated yet
Oh,
from the school,
hmm,
which I think is a reason why I'm liking it because in the original Naruto, it's like immediately their teams, they become Team Seven, and they're getting trained by Kakashi, and they're going on missions.
hmm,
While this, like the beginning of the show, it's very much more centered on the characters.
okay,
Like you get to kind of know each of the classmates and each of the people in the school and like who their parents are and like everyone's kind of relation to each other. Um, and you get to learn like about Boruto, not just like, oh, hey, he's Naruto's son. All right, whatever. You're gonna like him because of this reason. They like have a mystery that starts from the first episode and ends at like episode 12. Like
huh?
the first arc is like 12 episodes long.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah, and so
interesting.
I think that's why I'm enjoying it is because I'm getting more time with these characters and they're not just immediately getting thrown into ninja shit.
Does Boruto feel like a sequel to Naruto? Like they're just the same guy?
If it feels like a sequel, not a rehash.
So no, I mean his character. Sorry, I should have
Oh,
phrased
okay,
that
yeah.
better. Like his character, because one of the things that impressed me about Naruto was when we saw his father. It was very easy for them to make his father just like Naruto. Just act like Naruto, and then eventually he got to become the Hokage. But can't remember his name. But Naruto's father and Naruto's mother, they're quite cool because they're both very different characters, but they both have elements of Naruto's personality. So one of the cool things about the show is when you look at them, you go, "Oh, that's cool." Like I totally believe that he, is the offspring of those two characters because he's kind of like the two of them put together. Does Boruto feel like his own fully fledged character, like Naruto did, or does he just feel like a copy paste of Naruto?
I think I would say more his own character than the copy and paste. At
Okay,
first, he does seem very much like young Naruto, like, oh,
yeah.
hey, but I think there is a type of gentleness and a caring that is like very reminiscent of Hinata.
Oh, okay.
That I'm like, okay, I'm like, oh, I can see how you are her son. You were
That's
very much
interesting.
her son.
I like that.
And I my one major gripe I think with the show is, and I'm not sure, but I feel like a lot of the female characters from Naruto
Yeah.
have kind of turned into like the Chi Bomba archetype.
You'd have to explain that to me.
Oh, okay, you're not a Dragon Ball Z person. Oh yeah.
No, I'm not. Sorry.
But like a doting wife backslash like nagging
Oh,
wife.
okay.
I feel like every single character, like all the character in Naruto is like, because Naruto is a Hokage now.
Yes, yes.
Um, his cabinet are Shikamaru and like his bros. While like Hinata's like, Hinata's Naruto's wife, and Tenten, I believe her name, is like Shikamaru's wife, whatever. And I feel like Sakura is even, and she kind of does some stuff, but I feel like a lot of the female characters, and I know I'm still early on, but a lot of the older characters, I should say, feel like they've kind of just turned into housewives, which doesn't really
Oh,
excite me.
that is a
I'm
damn
hoping they
shame.
get more to do, and because it has been a lot about the kids so far, but just like every time I get a scene of them, they're usually like making fun of the dad, like getting angry at the dad about them doing something stupid, and I'm like, okay, but do you do anything else besides cook?
Yeah, that's weird considering how forget the kids, but the older females were dealt with in the original Naruto. If you think
Yeah.
of characters like, is it Kanin? Can, oh, the one with the red eyes. She was in.
Oh, Carrie. I know who you're talking about. I do not remember
Her
names though.
husband, or maybe they weren't husband and wife, but the father of her child was killed. He was a leader. He was Shikamaru's
Yeah,
leader.
her,
God, there's so
she
many
showed up in a
characters.
recent episode too. Oh my God. Whatever, because I want to say Kasami.
Yeah, but she was one of the leaders of the team. She was Hinata's ninja master. Um,
Yeah,
but she really was like a cool female character as a kid watching Naruto. I was like, oh wow, this woman, she's a mother, but she's also like she's not a mother, in terms
yeah.
of like she doesn't act like a mother. She wasn't like putting bandages on the kids. She was teaching them to fight just like all the other characters were. And like, what's her name? The Hokage after the third Hokage dies.
Tsunade,
Tsunade, is that it?
Tsunade, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh
yeah.
God,
The one with the diamond in her hair. Dude, it's like
yeah,
Game of Thrones in this shit. Like, there's so many
yeah,
names.
yeah.
It's mental. But she again, maybe she was a bit too over sexualized. I don't know. You could argue that it was a early noughties anime.
Yeah, early on.
but she never really felt like a mother, and never really felt like a doting mother or anything. And I was hoping that. Because I can totally see them doing it with Hanata. Like, she's the type of character that you can kind of spin into that. Not that I like it, but, like, you can kind of spin it. But to hear that it's every female right now.
That's just what and like we just got to an episode where we're now looking into like the Sasuke Sakura Sarada.
Is that
I
a
can't.
child?
Yeah, their daughter. I can't pronounce her name very well.
Mm.
But they're like dynamic, and it's like, oh God, this is really weird. Like I don't like it at all. Like I mean, it makes sense for Sasuke's character, but it it's one of those things that makes sense for him, but almost brings her down
Yeah, yeah.
because the situation is basically like Sasuke hasn't seen his daughter since she was born,
Oh, wow.
and his whole thing is he's like trying to repent for all the things he's done, and he's going out and protecting the village from the outside.
Oh, okay, I get it.
But it's like, and they don't tell any of this to the daughter though, and the daughter like feels like he just doesn't love her or whatever, or that she feels like that her mom doesn't care or that they have like this fake relationship because it's like how can you just sit here and while he's like gone all the time.
I I think I would have done to fix this, and again, I'm not an amazing anime writer, so maybe this wouldn't have worked. But I feel like one simple fix: have Sasuke and Sakura divorced, broken up. And
Yeah,
like the daughter is like, oh, I'm stuck here with you, and Dad's out there doing all this cool shit, and then Dad comes back and he's a disappointment. Like
yeah.
that's how I would have done it because
Well,
I never.
but then also that relationship has brought her character down the entire length of Naruto too.
Yeah, yeah,
I
that's
mean,
true. I
like
always
every time
hated.
Sasuke is involved, she literally faints in an episode of Boruto, and I'm like, you're a grown woman, stop fainting. But I'm really enjoying the show. I think I've gotten a lot of time to enjoy and like these new characters.
Hmm.
There is some complications with just how some of the female characters are treated, and like, um, what's his name, Choji? You know the guy who can like make his body parts like bigger and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, the big guy that he was
Yeah,
on.
his
He's
he
on
was on the
team with.
retrieval team. Yeah,
Yes.
his daughter is in the show, and she's bigger, which is like really cool. Except like
Hmm.
she kind of gets made fun for it sometimes.
Hmm.
And she's very much like very positive about how she looks and she thinks she's beautiful and stuff. But when she says stuff like that, people are like, oh, really? And I'm like, oh, did you have to like, you don't have to make fun of her because she thinks she's pretty. Like, she is pretty.
Maybe. I mean, I think that I would wait to see how that. Oh my god, I'm sorry. So unprofessional.
Oh, yeah,
I should
professionalism is
I
very
should die
much.
in silence. I would wait to see how that plays out because I think that could go both ways. That could be really interesting in the sense that you have a character that is very body positive and is very positive about herself while other people are bringing her down, because that could ultimately go in a direction that is like fuck those people, which is
Yeah.
cool.
Well, and the interesting thing is they are one of my favorite things is they are shitty kids.
Yeah, yeah.
Like they all feel like they feel young.
I obviously I can't mention names or anything, but I've worked with kids before, and I've met someone like that. It was a super super cool kid. Like she wasn't conventionally like she didn't weigh the same as all the other girls, but she would like be the first to make jokes about it. And when the boys made fun of her, she would just like make jokes back at them and stuff. And like it made me realize that like kids are sometimes stronger than adults in that sense.
Oh
Like
yeah.
kids can take things in their stride as long as they have they've been brought up in a way that they can, and they have the self-confidence. Not all kids do, to be fair. I'm not blaming kids that don't
Yeah.
take it in their stride, but I think that you can do something interesting with that arc. And to be fair, like Choji was always called fat and stuff in the earlier seasons, and they were always made fun of him. But like eventually he proved himself because he was like he proved his worth by doing and stuff. So it would be interesting to see what they do with that character. You're honestly making me interested and making me think that I might want to watch the show, but I just don't have.
Yeah, I would say at least, well, yeah, there's just time. I just got lucky, and I was just like, I'm blasting through a whole bunch of these
It is, and it's like
in like a couple days.
everyone's got their own things, their own things that they're watching. So it's like, dude, I'll add that to my list, but my list is really long right now.
Yeah, and I just ignore my list and add other things.
So I don't want to get too. I was actually struggling. I'm not sure if you kept up with the notes, but they kept changing because I haven't really watched anything since, and this is a bit of a spoiler, since Glow. I haven't really watched anything that has really jumped out at me as being like, oh man, I gotta talk to John about this.
Yeah.
So I put Final Space on there. I watched Final Space. For those who don't know, it's like an animated show. It's like a less deep, less pretentious Rick and Morty. That's not a hating
Okay.
thing, by the way. I like Rick and Morty, but like,
I don't like people who like Rick and Morty.
yeah, that's kind of a joke that I like subscribe to a little bit. I like Rick and
Yes.
Morty. I think it's a really fun show. I think it does get a little deep, and that's interesting, and that's fun for a show to do that. But Final Space, the reason I describe it as that is because Final Space is like, it feels like it got greenlit because TBS wanted their own version of Rick and Morty, but it's TBS, so they couldn't talk about like really, really dark stuff. But they still do
Yeah.
get to quite dark territories. Final Space is fun. It's really fun. Really enjoyed it. Really recommend it. It's super short. In Britain, it's on Netflix. I don't know where you watch it on Netflix in
I
America.
I would think TBS probably.
Probably, yeah. If it was
Watching that.
made on TBS and put on TBS, I don't know. But what I mean is, like, they might have put it on Netflix in America as well. But again, it didn't grab me. Didn't like jump out and was like, I want to talk about this. So I just thought I would go back and talk about something that I never ended up talking about with you because I was currently like in the middle of it while we talked last, which is Glow. Gorgeous
So good.
Ladies of Wrestling season 2. Started season 2. It was like, oh, dude, I remember why I like this show. It's so good. It's so fun. And then it was like, oh, woof. The filmmaking in this show. Oh, the filmmaking in this show is so spectacular. It's just beyond fantastic. The kind of my university lecturer would describe it as the auteur, like the vision that the filmmaker has and the filmmakers have is just so clear and so distinct and like. So I just want to talk about this one scene. I don't want to go off on a tangent because we could sit here and talk about Glow for 40 minutes, but you have some interesting topics that I don't understand and I want to get into. So I'm just going to talk about one specific scene with Glow. So let me set it up. I know, John, obviously you've seen it, but anyone listening. So there was a character. For the first season, I think you'd agree, John, that he's played majoritively for comedic relief.
Oh yeah.
He's a character who is really interesting, really fun, really cool. I liked him in season 1. He's the announcer for the wrestling, but he's also a producer on the show because he comes from a rich family. But he's generally in season 1 played for either comedic relief or he's to bounce off Mark Maron's character, who's kind of a cynical, angry character compared to this guy who's very upbeat, very, bubbly. And I even mentioned to John early on in season 2, I was like, this dude would be a really good like Captain Marvel. Like he would be a good Shazam if they.
He's got a sincerity to him.
100%. They deal with him in a way in season 2 that was very, very interesting, but not in the story that they told, but in the way that they told the story. And the way they do that is #spoilers for Glow season 2, by the way. You start to find out that the character is gay, and not just he's gay, but he's gay in the 80s, which is like the peak of AIDS. Everyone was terrified of this disease that they thought was like, you could like catch it just by looking at someone who's gay. Like it was mental. It was absolutely mental. There's a movie called Pride that touches on this really, really well. That I'd recommend. Pride is a fantastic movie. But that the reason I mentioned Pride is because it was kind of my introduction to this idea. Like I wasn't around in the 80s. I didn't know that there was this weird fear. But obviously the Glow is set in the 80s as well. So they come up with the idea, and it may have even been the idea to do it in season 1, where this character is a gay character. Obviously, maybe he doesn't even know he's gay himself, but he clearly has some kind of feelings for his butler. And when I say butler, like you think like Alfred, don't you? Like I don't know why I always think like Alfred. But like his butler is like, what's his butler's name, John? I can't remember.
Oh god.
He's not even in season 2.
No, that's the great thing about it is that he doesn't. I don't think he's in one frame because he kind of disappears in season 1, and then season 2 is him finding him, which is also a very interesting metaphor for like
100%
finding himself. But you keep on going because I like your train of thought.
Okay. Here. So right, I'm gonna wrap this up. Sorry, I just got a little bit distracted because I love this so much. So. What I'm saying is the story of taking a character that was a comic relief, kind of a sincere, nice guy, but not really that integral to the plot, and turning him gay in a time where being gay was not a good thing. That is a good story arc, but it's nothing mind-blowing. It's nothing that hasn't been done before. It's nothing that you would go, ooh, this is edgy, It's not like they're turning him into a vampire or something. Not that would be better. But what I loved about it, what really blew me away, wasn't that they did this with this character. It was the way they do it. Because at no point in the show does he have a heart-to-heart with anyone where he explains that he's conflicted about his feelings. At no point in the show does he, you see him making out with a guy or like hugging a guy or anything like that. There is never any of these like stereotypical or even just kind of obvious, not even stereotypical, just obvious ways to show that this character is gay and show that this character is terrified of being gay and terrified of what people will think of him, and also how it's going to affect his health, his actual physical health, because at that point, people thought that it was going to actually, kill you. The show shows you that he's gay in these scenes, in these very specific, very ingenious scenes, and I just want to talk about one, which is he's looking for his butler. His butler's been missing, and he finds out that his butler sometimes frequents this club. So some of the other goddess ladies are wrestling. They catch wind that he's looking for his butler, so they go, "Hey, we'll just go to this club, and we'll just go. It'll be fun. We can go to the club. Well, you can look for your friend, and we'll all just kind of enjoy ourselves, and we'll help you out, because they really like him because he's a nice guy." So he enters the club, and what proceeds is some of the coolest filmmaking ever, because I can't even describe it with words. You're going to have to just watch it, and maybe I'll make a Wi-Fi Friends video on it where I can kind of break it down. But he just enters the club, and it's just this montage of shots of him looking at the club and realizing that it's a gay club. And the acting on his face combined with the cinematography is just, John, you got to back me up. It's so good. It's so good, and you just get it without any words, without any kind of like.
Well, what I find interesting about it is that it's not just like, oh hey, I'm attracted to men. It's not just like, because some scenes, TV shows do that where you see like, Krypton has like a really great scene, whatever, where a character like. Walks into this showering, whatever, and he sees like all these naked dudes, whatever, and his face just makes like a very obvious face of like, I'm interested in that. But what this show does is that you see like all of the conflict. Like the entire time, the entire scene, you can tell like every move and every action that he makes, whatever, is hesitant. It's like. And like when he goes up to the table, to the bar, whatever, to start asking questions, the way that he's positioning like his body, like the blocking, it's just all like tells you it all, like you get the whole sense of like every feeling and emotion this guy's going through. Like he doesn't want to put his arms all the way out. He doesn't want to do this. It's like
the guy
body language.
The guy tries to give him the drink for free, and he insists on paying it because he's afraid of what that contract means. There's no contract there.
Yeah.
He's just making it up in his head because he's so terrified of how he's feeling. And there's only...
And the great thing is, like, by the time he gets to the bar, like, you can tell, like, his tension is, like, before he goes into the bar, he's like, maybe he's at, like, a 25.
Yeah.
He's worried about his butler or whatever, and then it just... You can see it ratcheting up until, like, when he's at the bar, and it's like, you can tell he's at, like, an 100. Like, he's just anxious and tense, and it's just... Oh, it's wonderful.
It's mental. And like, what's cool is that those scenes where you see his face and he's just looking around, the contrast of him would work by itself, right? It would work with just the scene with just him and the bar, and everything. But the added little sprinkles on top, this is what Glow does. It has a great scene and it sprinkles really cool things, is he keeps looking over to the dance floor, and the women who came with him, the wrestlers, his friends, are having such a good time because they don't have any of this fear. They don't have any of this. They're just enjoying themselves. They're just having fun. They're comfortable with who they are. There's a lot of wrestlers in the show where the point of them is that they're comfortable with who they are. Some of them aren't, but like they're very comfortable being who they are. They talk very candidly in a way that a lot of other people don't talk. And you just see how euphoric their faces are and how much fun they're having, and then you keep cutting back to him, and it's almost like he wants to be out there. Like, part of him wants to be out there with them, being himself, but then the other part of him hates himself for that and is terrified. And he's just like, this actor, he's shot up in my books. He's so good. There's a scene where he brings these guys in to fumigate his apartment because he's afraid of getting AIDS from the gay butler being in the apartment. He gets them to completely do it, and he's just screaming at them. He's like, "You got to do this. You got to do this. You got to get rid of everything. Get rid of everything." And they're like, "Dude, we know. We've done this before." And like, like not only is it like them saying we've done this before, like terrifying, because it's like how many people were afraid of this, that this is like a regular job for them, but also like him. I can't get into it too much because it's just gonna be a podcast about this character.
See, it's interesting because I thought of a different scene when you were starting to talk about Bash and like what
Okay.
scene. I thought you were going to talk about the scene when he finds out,
Oh,
because that is one of my favorite scenes in the show, because it goes from like this
oh,
high of like, because it was right, like they sell that they get all these producers to go to their show because they're trying to get their show sold. So it's like they're excited, they're happy, they just tricked all these producers into going to one of their live shows. And then he immediately afterwards gets the phone call. And how quickly he just shuts down and like nonchalantly just says like, "Fuck you, we're done with this conversation." Bam, cigarette in my mouth. Like
he
God.
hard disassociates.
Yeah.
Like he straight up and like again the sprinkling. You didn't need to do this, but it just made the scene better. The person on the phone, just to add to the world and to add to how severe the like stigma was, won't even say the word AIDS. She says technically it was anemia or something like that, wasn't it? It's like she doesn't say AIDS. She says like what eventually the AIDS caused and what he died from, because everyone's so uncomfortable. And honestly, his whole arc is predicated on this idea of being uncomfortable, and with him being comfortable and everyone around him being uncomfortable, and not being able to just say it, and not being able to just admit what it is, and to just be who you are. And like that's kind of a broader theme of the show, but specifically with Bash's story, it's just so good.
Well,
it's
especially
so
going back to season one, because going back to season one, he's the one who's most comfortable in the world of wrestling.
Yes, yeah.
And so it's like him becoming more and more uncomfortable in his personal life, while everyone else is becoming more comfortable in this world that was his solace from everything.
And
it's just
and as much as you love him in season one, and how you love how he's so into wrestling in a way that the others don't really take it seriously, it's so cool when you start to realize why he might have found solace specifically in wrestling. You know, like he has this scene where he goes home and he has the walls and walls of men. And in the season one, you would have seen it as like, oh, he loves wrestling. And he does obviously love wrestling, but it's like these walls and walls of buff men. And you're like, oh, okay. I'm starting to understand how he got it out, you know, how he kind of justified in his brain what he liked, you know. Bash, just, and yeah. Glow really killed it for me, dude. It was season 2 was infinitely better than season 1. And season 1 was like, good, but like, wow.
The scene in the hotel.
Oh shit.
Oh my god. We could talk about Glow for like another hour. And like part of me is like, I really want to talk about this scene, but then part of me is like, should we continue to the rest of this stuff?
Let's save it because there's a scene. Yeah. You're talking about the one that is very relevant today, right?
Yeah, the Me Too scene.
Yes. So that is again, that you can't just talk about the scene. You have to talk about what is the main wrestler's name, the blonde one, Miss America.
Oh god, what's her name? Wow, I remember Zoya the Destroyer.
How could you forget Zoya the Destroyer?
Oh, but Liberty Bell.
Liberty Bell. So the woman who is Liberty Bell in the show, her reaction followed by Mark Maron's character's reaction.
Oh my god, that was
dude.
That was a gut punch.
Mark Maron. And we're only speaking to people who see the show. I'm getting emotional now. I'm tearing up. Mark Maron, when that happened, there was so much second-hand relief, so much like a weight had been lifted off my own shoulders. Some dude watching it in his fucking living room. I got up and I cheered, and I had to explain to, like, Jen came home, and I had to be like, Jen, I don't care what you did today. I have to talk to you about this scene because it made me so happy and so, like, it justified his whole character. It justified everything he did in the show. It made me so happy. It was like, I was crying, dude. I was full on crying in my living room, cheering at the screen like a fucking idiot. It was crazy, but I don't regret it because it was so well done. It was so well done. Oh, gosh. Sorry. Glow Season 2, guys. Check it out, even if you didn't
It's
care
good.
for number
It's
one.
my favorite show on Netflix.
It's
My favorite Netflix original. I'll say that. My favorite Netflix original.
It's so good. It's just, and if you're a fan of filmmaking, like, you're missing out. Like, it's so good. All right. I also did recently. This is such a weird thing to just bring up. Secondly, I rewatched First Blood, the original Rambo movie.
Oh wow.
I sometimes I'll just go watch, like, old movies I loved as a kid. First Blood is a fucking fantastic movie.
It's still good.
It's still good, and anyone who's like, hey, I haven't seen First Blood, I missed it, I never watched it, because it's one of those films where, like, everyone assumes everyone's seen it, but
yeah,
a lot of people haven't.
Well, it's one of those things that reminds you, like, because we look back on the 80s action stars in a very specific way.
Yes.
We think about Rocky, but we don't remember the, like, weird, solemn story that Rocky 1 is about this guy who everyone kind of, like, makes fun of because he's, like, kind of slower, and, like, this solemn story that Rocky 1 is. And, like, it just reminds you how much Sylvester Stallone was, like, he was a different type of action star. He was very, like, he was almost trying, like, that Oscar bait style that we all make fun of now. Like, because I feel like a lot of his, like, main projects are the ones that have, like, all of this heart underneath.
Oh, 100%.
The ones that we remember, at least.
I feel like the 80s is remembered mostly for the sequels. You remember the 80s for like Rocky 4, Rocky 3. You remember the 80s for, like, Rambo 3. You remember, like, but
Terminator.
Yeah, like Terminator 2. I mean, Terminator 2 is still a fucking fantastic movie.
I was to say that one doesn't fit because
Terminator is more of an action movie, I'd guess. I'd bet. But Stallone specifically, you always remember him for the sequels and him being a cheesy action star. But if you watch the original Rocky and if you watch the original Rambo, yes, Rambo is an action movie. It's got a lot of action sequences. And
that
a lot of
ending.
Oh, dude, this movie is not an action movie. Like, it's an action movie second. When you put genres in a movie, you put them in order of how relevant they are. Like, Captain America is a superhero war film. It's like, it is a war film, but it's more a superhero film, but it is also very much a war film. I would argue that Rambo is a drama first and then an action movie, because I would
argue that Rambo is a slasher movie.
But he rarely kills anyone. That's the funny thing. Like Rambo,
maybe more of a horror movie, but, like,
yeah,
because it's really about this guy who gets, like, really fucked over constantly, and dude. Like, oh my god, and then he does things that he doesn't want to do to, like, survive. Like, it's not like a thriller, I guess, but oh my god. And then did you know about the original ending that it was supposed to be?
I don't know, but I've only seen the movie as is.
Yeah, so the original ending was that he was gonna basically commit suicide by the officer. He was gonna grab the guy's gun and shoot himself.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus. I mean, it would fit, because if people are going, this doesn't fit the tone, I remember, rewatch the movie, dude, because there is so much fun in this movie, so much fun to be had, fun action sequences. There's a scene where Rambo jumps in a car and is holding the driver to gunpoint. Not a car, sorry, an army vehicle. He's holding the driver by gunpoint, and he's like, drive. And the driver's, like, terrified, and he's looking down at this ripped man with a bandana and a gun. And Rambo just goes, look at the road. That's how accidents happen. Like, there's those lines, which is hilarious and really fun. But that is not the core of the movie. The core of the movie is a guy who has severe PTSD, like, to the point where it is crippling. And no one in this town, like, they are being, what's the word? prejudice. They're being prejudiced, and a lot of people looking back at this movie won't understand why. But you need to understand, like, the
Vietnam vets back then were not
oh shit, dude. They were
welcome.
like you need to have the context of that in this movie. I feel like that is something that some people miss. Is like this is a movie about prejudice. Like, it's not, they don't just randomly beat him up because he's a guy walking the street. Like, people saw these vets as like failures and losers, and they saw them as the reason the war happened, you know, even though they were just, you know, like, it's really the government who was to blame, you know?
Yeah.
And it was also like, and you correct me if I'm wrong, John, because I'm not American, but I think it was the first war that the United States ever really lost, you know? Or ever really, like,
I
was on
don't
the
know
losing end of.
specifically, but it's a war that it doesn't count. You know, it was a conflict.
Exactly, like, you go World War II, you go, yeah, World War II, you know, we beat the Nazis. You can't say that with Vietnam. There's no, like, victory. No. There's no V-Day with Vietnam. And it caused a lot of veterans to feel like they, you know, they weren't welcome anymore. And just... there's the beginning scene of him walking down, and he's got this hope, and he's got this smile. He smiles almost at the camera, not quite, but he almost smiles at the camera in the opening scene because he's so excited to see his friend, the only remaining living member of his squadron, the only person who would understand him. And he's so excited. And then after that opening scene, it's full of like happiness, and you see his smile. When he finds out his friend is dead, it just, everything leads to that ending. Everything from then on leads to that ending where he just has that attack, and it's just so... I was crying, dude. I was literally crying. I know I've cried at both my faves this week, but like, it is a touching, well thought out. And Stallone, like, he gets clumped in with Schwarzenegger a lot. I wouldn't say Schwarzenegger's a great actor. I think he's a good character actor. He's good in, you know, being a robot and being an alien, but Stallone is just out of this world. Like, he's such a good actor. He's up there with.
I mean, if you've seen Creed, like even now, it's still like,
dude, Creed is another level. Like, Ryan Coogler brought a performance out of that guy.
I can't wait for Creed 2. Oh my god.
I'm worried though, because there's no Coogler. The Coog is gone.
Yeah. The Coog is gone, man.
And he went over to direct a Marvel movie, which, you know, to be fair, was a great movie. But like, I'm worried because if you think like you know, the Rocky sequels, they kind of changed in tone, and I'm worried that the Creed sequels. I mean, he's literally fighting Ivan Drago's son.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
but that trailer was really good though.
I still haven't seen the trailer. I'm avoiding it. I don't want to spoil it for myself. I did also see Ant-Man and the Wasp, but I'm not going to get into it. My quickie review was, I thought it was really good. Thought it was really fun. It wasn't like, you know, it wasn't one of my most favorite Marvel movies of all time, but it was really, really fun. I really enjoyed it.
A middle of the road Marvel movie, still good.
Yeah, heartfelt.
Very bad Marvel movies are still enjoyable to some extent.
Yeah, to some extent. There is one.
Ooh, what's your one? Thor: The Dark World?
No, honestly, The Dark World...
I enjoy a lot of that movie.
The Dark World is a good one for me, because I really like Thor. Like, Thor will... Even if it's a bad movie, I just like Thor. Doctor Strange.
Oh, yeah, that one's like... I don't care.
The first time I watched it, I thought it was just boring. The second time I watched it, it was... Again, I'm not going to get into it. We'll do a whole other podcast now. Maybe we'll do hot take, a video. I'll upload it in all caps. It'll be like, why Doctor Strange is a terrible movie.
Yeah, the thumbnail needs to be you screaming with like stuff all around you. Yeah.
Like, and then like in quotes, you guys who disagree with me are just wrong.
Yeah.
So John, you've got a topic written down here.
Yes, I do.
That makes no sense to me in any Google Translate I've put it through. It says NJPW, which I assume is New Japan Pro Wrestling. G1 Climax, sexy, tournament.
Cameron Paulutina Morris.
I'm loving these middle names.
Let me take you on a journey.
Do so.
The world's most prestigious wrestling tournament in the world. New Japan Pro Wrestling's G1 Climax tournament.
Okay.
So, this tournament started July 18th. Is going to be ending on August 14th.
Fuck me, okay.
So there are 19 total shows in general.
I thought it was like a one-night thing.
Oh, no. think of this like, you know, the Royal Rumble
Mm-hmm.
for WWE. Like the Royal Rumble is a show that basically sets up WrestleMania.
Yes.
The G1 Climax is a tournament that sets up Wrestle Kingdom, which is their big WrestleMania event.
Okay.
So the idea is that you have two blocks, A block and B block. You have, how many people are in this one? I want to say 20 wrestlers? Wait, hold on. 1, 2,
So
3, 4,
10
5,
in each
6,
block?
8, 9, 10. Yeah, 10 in each block.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, like each night, whatever, there's like different, each night, whatever, there are different matches. Every person is going to face every person in their block at least once.
Okay.
And then, so if you win, you get 2 points. You lose, you don't get a point. You draw, both people get 1 point.
So it's like a league.
Yeah. So basically, whoever gets the most points in A block fights the guy who gets the most points in B block.
Okay.
And then the winner of that goes to Wrestle Kingdom to face the heavyweight champion.
Oh, yeah, I get it. So ultimately the same outcome as Royal Rumble, but a more interesting, kind of more drawn out way of deciding the winner.
What's most interesting about the G1 Climax is that this is a storytelling device that is constantly brought back to.
Okay.
Matches in the G1 are constantly brought up. People's standings of like previous G1s, like, oh, this guy, he's only really ever gotten like 4 to 6 points during a G1.
I see.
So he really needs to come into this one and prove himself. And it's interesting because, so this is for like New Japan has divisions. So this is obviously for the heavyweight division.
Yes.
So all the heavyweight champions are in this tournament. Even the main heavyweight champion.
Okay.
And if he wins the tournament, he just decides who his opponent is.
Oh, I like that. That's cool.
Yeah. But so if anybody is able to beat one of the champions, they're guaranteed a title match later on.
What?
Well, so basically, like, because there's the U.S. champ, the never open weight champion,
Okay.
which is basically just like anybody. And then there's the IWGP heavyweight champion.
Okay.
So say like Juice Robinson, I love Juice Robinson.
He's got a great name.
He's this white dude with dreads who's just
Okay.
a happy dude. He's just a good guy. But he's the US champ, and he's not been doing well this G1.
Ooh.
He's been getting his butt kicked. But so these times that he's lost, these guys can now say, all right, well, I already beat you once. I deserve a title shot.
So it's
because
not official, but it's just a kind of a storytelling device.
Yeah, so basically, most of the time, like the next event, whatever, whoever beat that person gets the match.
Okay.
It's usually a given of like, all right, that person's usually gonna get that match. But the thing is, Juice has lost like 4 or 5 times. So it's like, are you gonna do it in order? Do some of these guys not care about getting a match against that title? It's always very
match.
They do not do a lot of like different types of matches usually.
Oh, the gimmicks were my favorite.
Yeah, they're not big on the gimmicks a lot of times. But what's so interesting about the G1 is that you just have so many opportunities to tell so many different types of stories. You have people who are in the same groups who happen to have matches against each other.
Ooh, yeah. I loved it when the Hardy Brothers would always have to fight each other.
Yeah, so like, and there's like a lot of different factions in New Japan. But like, so Los Ingobernables de Japón, I believe.
So
My
like
Spanish
a
is
Japanese person and a Spanish person had a baby.
rusty. So it's a group that started in Mexico,
Oh, okay.
but a Japanese guy joined it and then brought the group to Japan and now has his own version of the group in Japan.
I see.
So that's why they're de Japón, like of Japan. But 2 of those guys are facing each other in a match.
Oh,
And then 2 guys from or a bunch of guys from Chaos are facing each other. And then a bunch of guys from Bullet Club are facing each other. So it's a very interesting, like, there are certain people that Ishii and Goto, those 2, every time there's a G1 Climax, they usually have a match against each other, and they just beat the crap out of each other. Like, they just go to town on each other. It's just so interesting, like, every G1, they always bring out the best in each other.
Mm.
And so it's like this thing of like the audience knows like, oh, the Ishii and Goto match is here now. Like we know they're going to like for some reason those two guys when it's G1 time, they always go 100% against each other. And
Okay,
so I
I
think
get
it's
it.
just
It's like this interesting storytelling. This like I like the statistics that you brought up earlier. Is like even if you don't win, you still want to get a good score because it looks good for the rest of the year and for the years going on. It's like you didn't win, but you got a great score in the G1.
yeah. It's like having a good showing in the G1 means a lot for your career and your future, whatever.
Mm.
Yoshihashi is a wrestler who's in the G1 who a lot of people said didn't deserve to be in the G1. And that's
Ooh.
the talking point for all the commentary is
Mm.
that like fans and people don't think he deserves it because he didn't really do anything this last year. And so he's
Mm.
got to come into this G1 and he's really got to prove himself to everybody. Or else everyone's going to be like you're a wasted spot, like you're a wasted space, you don't deserve to be here.
Oh damn! God,
Yeah.
that's dramatic.
Yeah, and what I love about it is that like it's such an interesting it's using what I think wrestling does best, which is telling a story through the ring, through the actions in the ring.
Mm.
And it's something that's used all year long because it's like, all right, well, this guy had a perfect score in the G1 until he lost to this guy. So now they hate each other. He hates him because he ruined his perfect score.
Mm.
Or like, there's been a lot of tension between a lot of these groups because of the G1. And so it's just like, oh, all this interaction, like fighting, like how are these guys going to, once the G1 is over, still cooperate and work together as a group?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's a good way to mix things up because like I mean it was so rare that I mean I mentioned the Hardy Brothers just because that was a team that I used to watch a lot, but like it was so rare that like you'd see something like them having to fight each other, but it would be exciting. But I like the idea of an annual event where it's like even on the build up, and I don't know, I don't watch New Japan Wrestling, so I don't know if this is what they did do, but even on the build up to the G1, you could see like maybe teams not working as well together because they start
Well, that's been
eyeing each
the
other up.
interesting thing about this G1. So there's Jay White
Okay.
was a newer guy who joined Chaos. And he has been basically just like, hey, look, guys, I'm the second coming. Like, I'm going to bring this group back to like what it once was. And so the entire G1, he's just been killing it. Like, he's been having a really good run in this G1.
Yeah.
But he's constantly just like, this is why you need my leadership. While the actual leader of Chaos, Kazuchika Okada, he used to be the heavyweight champion. Longest running heavyweight champion in history, just recently lost the belt. And he's just has gone down a tailspin. He's just like, he's dyed his hair a different color, and he's just acting really weird. Like you can
Wow,
tell
so
he's
Japanese. I love the dyeing the hair is like such a Japanese sign that something is wrong.
he started like he's been walking out with like balloons and throwing them at people, and he's just walking around. And he's like doing weird T-Rex arms.
We all float down here. Yes, we do.
Oh my god, it's been great. And you could just tell it's like, oh my god, Okada's having a mental breakdown because he
Is he
just
the
doesn't
guy
know what to
that
do
I made a
himself.
Wi-Fi friends video on because you challenged me to watch him fight his friend?
Yes.
He's
Yeah.
the like champion, the guy who won that match, right?
Yep.
Okay.
But now
He's
he's
awesome.
just gone complete. He just doesn't know what to do with himself anymore because he's not the champion anymore.
And that was like his identity.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's dope.
So G1's it's so meticulously planned out
Mm.
because it's like all these matches have to be like the who wins, who loses, however many points people get, like all of it. It's just one of those things that you look at and you go, this is incredible. Like how they went through all of this effort and how all the stories just beautifully like converge.
Mm.
It's just one of my favorite things about wrestling.
Dope. I mean, it sounds like because that's the thing with wrestling. Like, I always felt like, how far can you push this? How many stories can you tell about 2 guys, 3 guys, 4 guys fighting in a ring? But they always find new ways to innovate, and they find new ways to kind of make, drama out of what is essentially just like brawling,
Yeah.
And it's just crazy how the inventiveness of some of these creators and some of the writers and obviously the wrestlers, like I mean, And watching, like, I mean, just watching Glow, like it doesn't. It's almost more impressive now as an adult, you know? As a kid, you were impressed when you thought these people were fighting each other and stuff. And then you grow a little bit older and you go, oh yeah, I understand it's fake and stuff. But then you grow even older and you go, dude, how much effort and creative storytelling and physical
Yeah,
torment
you
must
try
go
to do a
into
handstand
these.
and you're like, how do these people flip every night?
Like it's insane. And like just watching that New Japan Wrestling match that you sent me that I made a video about, it's mental because they really do. I mean, they're actors in the truest sense of the word. Like, you feel they have to be on. They're like stage play actors. They have to be on for an hour, like
Yeah.
literally an hour of being in character and being that way, and being. I mean, imagine this guy now, the guy who lost the title,
Okada.
Okada. So obviously he knew he was going to lose it. Maybe he didn't. Maybe there was some kind of like Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan type situation where he could have won it. But like, he probably knew he was losing the title, and right now he knows he has to act like he's broken. But part of him has got to be actually genuinely broken. You know,
Yeah.
like being able to be the top wrestler for that long and being able to always come out on top and
And
knowing that
breaking
you're gonna,
records too.
and then being told this is the path your character is taking now. This is the person you are now. You have to be the broken, defeated, you know. And then again, bringing it back to the G1. Imagine going into that and being like, dude, how am I going to approach this now? This is like the thing that I've always, you know, people have
Well,
always
and that's
come
the
at
thing
me.
is that, especially when you have like such a major change like that, it's like, because you can't just walk into something like that and go, all right, well, I'm just going to wrestle exactly the same way that I used to.
Yeah, exactly. Jeez. Oh my gosh. And like, man, it's just so good. I just love creative ways to tell stories, you know.
Yeah.
Like whenever you see something new, some new way of finding a way to like to creatively change it up, shake it up, you know.
Yeah.
It's not complicated, but man, I don't fucking understand.
It's good.
Um
It's a lot of wrestling though,
I can imagine.
because it
Jesus.
is still not over. It's running until the 14th of August. And then each like night that they have one, whatever, like a G1, they have like 3 or 4 tag matches that are just like guys who are going to be facing each other on later dates.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of like a feeling out thing of like, all right, well, like these two guys versus these two guys, they're all going to be like have singles matches later on. And
Mm.
then you have the main matches because you can't do like just a full night of all tournament matches because that'll just wipe somebody, that'll just wipe you out.
Yeah,
And so it's just, oh, it's always very interesting and cool.
it's I don't know, man. I I'm it's one of those things where I'm just like I don't understand how they do it. I really
Yeah.
don't. Like
I
I
do want to
and
send you the Ishii Goto match though, because that
okay,
match it was amazing. And
okay.
I said, holy fuck,
I'm
multiple
totally
times.
1000% down for that. It's like when you watch you know, people make a movie. I get that. I understand it now. Like I understand how people make movies. I understand how people toil over books like for months and months. They keep writing chapter and editing, you know, poems. But like wrestling is one of those things where I don't think I'll ever fully understand how you bring yourself to do that, you know? How you
Yeah.
bring yourself to be like, "Oh, how am I going to act but also genuinely be in pain?" You
Well,
know,
there's
like
this great article, not to get too deep down the rabbit hole, whatever, but there's this great article about this woman was talking about like how when she fell in love with wrestling and like how she fell in love with wrestling. Because at first she was like, I don't get it. It's just violence. Like I don't like MMA. I don't
yeah.
like stuff like that. But then she was talking about like blood, like tears and blood, and how those are used in wrestling.
Mm,
If you're a fighter and you start bleeding from somewhere, you want to get that thing patched up as quickly as possible.
yes.
You want it to like if you're bleeding in your mouth, whatever, you want to spit it all out, you want to clear it up, whatever. In wrestling, you want to let it droop. You know, you
Yeah,
want to let
yeah,
it be
yeah.
seen because that's how you connect with the audience.
Yes.
If you win a title and you can't, you just start crying. You know, that's one of my favorite moments is when like the facade breaks a little bit
Mm.
and you can see the person behind the character who's like, you were legitimately so excited right now that you won this. Um, it's that you're not just like, oh, great, like oh, I need to get this sweat out of my eyes because I won't be able to see. It's like, no, I want it to be seen so the audience can feel what I'm feeling.
There's an image from my childhood that is seared into my brain. Um, and I mean, he's my favorite wrestler anyway, so it was more likely that it was going to be him. But I'll just never forget it. And it was Triple H won his belt back, and he's one of those guys like we were talking about who held the belt for so long that when he lost it, he didn't know what to do with it. You know, he didn't know what to do
Yeah.
with himself. So he won his belt back. And I remember him holding the belt. It's just this one image. I don't remember who he faced even, but he's holding the belt up in one hand and he's holding his other arm in the other hand, like kind of in a celebratory pose. But he's leaning against the ropes because he can't physically stand up anymore.
Yeah.
And his face, he's got a cut at the top of his head, like where his hairline starts, and his face is just dripping so much with blood that it's like it's over his eyes. But it was never a violent thing for me. It was never like ooh, this is awesome because it's gory. It was just that, like you said, it's like that, you know, any sane person, anyone not acting or not, you know, into wrestling, who's actually in like just a fight, would wipe it. But he's so in the moment, he's so ecstatic and like feels accomplished that he just leaves it because he's like, I don't need my vision anymore. Like I've used it all up, and it's just all over his face, and it hit me in such an emotional way because it's like, damn man, like these people, they, oh, it's crazy. It's crazy. And I like every time I talk to you about wrestling, it makes me feel so nice and nostalgic because I remember sitting in my grandmother's living room, just like hunched up, just like cheering by myself, being like, "You can do it, Triple H.
You got it. Trips.
Trips."
Oh boy.
I'm gonna round out this episode with a bit of a chill topic because we got deep. I feel a lot in this episode. We got deep
I
in the
was
start.
surprised.
We got deep in the middle. We got deep at the end, but I'm just gonna round it out, kind of like a smooth landing. I just want a quick little topic. Just a couple of shows, a couple of things that you watched far past the point of enjoyment. This happens a lot, I think. Don't you think this happens?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
it happens a lot. A lot of times you watch far past the enjoyment, which is like 2 episodes. You should have quit like 10 minutes in. But like some notable ones for me, I mean, we talked about it earlier in this episode, was Naruto. Like I watched Naruto Shippuden so much, and part of it was a bonding experience with my brother. My brother and I would like watch Naruto so much because we would just, there was something about it that was like, I mean, a lot of the show is about family and it's about brotherhood, you know, and what it means to like be friendly with someone in a way that is not just like friendly and pally. You know, it's like not the way Naruto felt about Sasuke. Not so much the way Sasuke felt about Naruto. I never understood that, but like definitely the way that Naruto felt about Sasuke, and a lot of the other characters, the way they felt about each other. And it was like, again, going back to the San Andreas boat, it was like we were watching this show about people, being ninjas and fighting, and they all had special powers. And that allowed us to pretend like we cared about that, but actually what we cared about was, the friendship, the love stories, the friendship, the caring about one another, the family aspect of it, and just me and my brother, who, my brother, I love my brother to the end of the world, but we're not the type of people that would talk about stuff like deep stuff like you and I do, because we're just very different people. And we connected over this show because it was like, hey, both of us, without even talking about it, care about these things, like still to the point, like when he gets drunk and we're talking and he's a bit more open, we'll still talk about the circle of hate. Like that is one of my favorite things from Naruto that we both learned from that show, which is the idea of, someone is mean to you. If you then use that to justify being mean to someone else, then it's just going to go around and around and around. And like, we watched that as kids and we were like, dude, this is like, it like became both of our philosophies in life, this silly anime, but like because of those, there's such a good like beginning of a show and going through line of the characters and caring about them so much. It meant that when the show really started to get weird and started to just filler and pad itself out, we stuck around for, I gotta say, like, we watched it for like 6 months longer than we actually cared.
Yeah.
Because you just like, it just felt like the thing to do at that point. You know, when you watch something so much that you're like, I can't imagine myself not watching it. You know, as long as they keep making it, I'm just going to keep watching it. It's weird. But that was kind of one that really stuck out to me because I was thinking about it recently, especially when you mentioned Boruto. Have you got any that you like watched past the point of enjoyment?
Oh, definitely. I mean, for me, like a big one is 13 Reasons Why.
Mm, mm.
I
Like,
watched all of season one.
all of it. I quit out on like episode 4.
I should have, but it was one of those things where I guess I just got morbidly curious.
Okay.
And I think I convinced myself that the show was trying to do more than it was, and that it was trying to be more helpful than it was.
Mm,
But especially getting into season two, and I didn't watch it in season two, but Christina did.
mm.
Christina just telling me what happens. I just realized that that show was kind of just trying to be, oh God, what's not vulgar, but just
Edgy.
yeah, yeah. It was just trying to be like, hey, look at us, we're tackling deep, hard subjects, aren't we? And it's like, you guys are just sensationalizing a lot of it, though. I don't really feel like you're actually trying to tackle these issues.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a weird show, isn't it? It's a weird because you
yeah,
meet people who they grasp it. They're like, oh my god, and and I've met people who have been through some shit that love that show, and they go, that show gets me, you know. But I should clarify, I've never been through the stuff that people go in the show, but I do know people. And then there's someone who was very close to me that said like they watched the show and it upset them because it felt like the show was using all of the I think they said that it used all of the drama of that comes with being, you know, clinically depressed and being, you know, suicidal and having suicidal thoughts and wanting to hurt yourself without any of the realness of it, you know,
yeah,
without any of the actual real crippling side of it. Because the person that I was talking to about it, you know, and this wasn't why I stopped watching the show, I'll get into that in a minute, but like they mentioned to me that they rarely, if ever, in season one say that anyone was ever depressed. They never use the word depressed. They never use the word, you know, clinically depressed, you know, anxiety. I think some guy says I've got anxiety just because he's like a little bit upset, and it's not like anxiety, you know. It's like all these weird things that, again, I don't think that is something that has to be in every show. I'm not going through and being like, these are the rules. You have to treat depression with a certain amount of. I think in art you can treat it however you want. It's, you know, the audience decides whether they like it, but you shouldn't have to treat things the way you want. But it was weird in a show that wanted so bad to connect with people in that way that they
it was
also then
weird
didn't.
because it was a show that wanted. I think the show for people who don't deal with stuff, who for normal people, let's say that for normal people,
That's an interesting way to put it, but okay.
that's how that's the best way I can think to describe it. For people who, you know, go about their daily life and don't have to go to a therapist, you know.
Yes, yeah,
Um,
people who don't suffer with mental health
yeah.
issues, I guess.
For them, part of me wants to say that a show like this that maybe does sensationalize might be a good learning experience because for people, some people like that who've never had any sort of like any,
Mm.
you know, experience,
I mean,
they
me,
might need someone, you know, like they might need it to be like in their face, like these are be nice to people. These are the horrors, you know, to
yes,
like see that, you know, people do deal with things. The problem is that the way that the show goes about things, it alienates the people who do deal with those situations because a lot of them can't watch it. Legitimately cannot watch it without being triggered.
yes, and I think that, again, this is getting to a bunch of different stuff now, but like,
I know we said we weren't going to get deep with this stuff.
like situations like being triggered, like because like you said, like I'm a person who has never suffered with severe anxiety, never suffered with severe depression, but I have people I care immensely about who have, and if it wasn't for those people, I would be ignorant to a lot of the things. And it's interesting how I had to learn that stuff I had to learn the scary, deep, nitty-gritty stuff from it happening to people that I care about. And when it happened to people I care about, I didn't understand it, you know? It wasn't until they explained it to me, and then after the fact, things like BoJack Horseman. I know this sounds weird, but for those who haven't seen the show,
I've heard that show is a lot of really good stuff.
oh, BoJack Horseman has an episode. Again, this deals not similar to 13 Reasons Why, but also a lot of people say they get triggered by BoJack Horseman. But I've never seen someone say it in a negative way like they do with 13 Reasons Why. It's just BoJack Horseman. It gets real a lot of the times, and there's an episode very late on in like season 4 that really did. It was the first time in my life where I was like, wow, I think I have a fraction of an idea what it's like to be in the head of someone with depression. Like it's a weird experience where like I've never had depression, you know. People say like, oh, I'm depressed, but I've never actually been like depressed properly. So it's weird to kind of have someone explain it to you without ever, you know, I don't know if you've ever had to try to explain something to someone, John, without ever, you know, really truly knowing that they'd get it, you know?
Oh, yeah, it's called going to therapy. It's really great. Actually, the interesting thing about therapy is that you find out that like sometimes you're explaining things too much, and then they just kind of like they're like, oh, okay, so this, and you're like, oh wow, that's a lot simpler way of I guess so, huh?
Yeah. That anecdote has been told to me as well from friends of mine, where they just go, you know, I said this, and then they had a name for it, and I didn't think they'd have a name for it. But yeah, 13 Reasons Why, interestingly enough, that stuff didn't turn me off because, again, I was like, I don't want to put rules on this. I don't want to tell this show what it cannot show. That's a little bit feels like artist police. Like, to be an artist, you have to be controversial, but not that controversial. Like, I never want to be like that. With me, 13 Reasons Why, and this sounds like, you know, we just got into all this, and this is going to sound super superficial. I didn't give a shit about any of the characters. I thought they were boring.
Yeah.
I thought everyone was boring, and I know this sounds bad, but she didn't actually exist. She's not a real person. I didn't care about Hannah. I didn't care. Like, obviously, there are characters in other shows that have been through similar situations that are handled better, and I've totally cared and poured my eyes out over. We talked about Glow recently. But, like, I did not care about any of the characters in that show, and 4 episodes in, I was like, I'm done. I'm bored. And
You did the smart decision.
Yeah. I didn't get to any of the terrible stuff.
To, like, the end. And the last episode, they just decided to say, like, hey, you know what? Like, fuck you. We're just going to show it.
Yeah, I hear about
and it's like really like visceral.
There's
and it's like, wow, this is like, ooh, I was not expecting to see like the razor and like all like, ooh, it gets like gory.
There are again, I never know what to say with these situations because there's an you didn't watch Orange is the New Black all the way, did you?
We got 3 or 4 seasons through.
Okay. So the new season just came out and we've been watching that. I haven't finished it yet, so I can't speak on the whole thing. But it deals with suicide a little tiny bit in that. And considering that it's also a Netflix original show, I thought they would stay away after the controversy that they felt. But they do it in a way that is quite interesting. And I didn't really know how to feel about it. I still don't know how to feel about it, but it was very much an artistic decision. But again, quite gory, but not as it didn't feel as self-serving as 13 Reasons Why, where it was just like, hey, we can make a show about suicide, and then that'll be on all the posters and everything, and it'll be in the trailers, and I don't know. It's a weird show. Bouncing around a little bit, making it a little bit less dark, I guess. I wanted to bring up Citrus, because I think that this is like a saga now, Cameron's battle with Citrus. So Citrus is an anime that I watched because it was created and based on a manga that was written by someone who wrote one of my favorite mangas of all time. So there's a manga called Girlfriends. I'm sure everyone well, if anyone listens to all these podcasts, other than us, John, will know that I've talked about this before. I loved the manga Girlfriends was a fucking fantastic manga. It's 2 huge volumes. I recommend anyone who loves just happy, feel-good stories read them. It's about a girl realizing that she's gay, accepting that she's gay, and then like how everything plays out. And it is just a very, very nice, very wholesome, very sweet, and sometimes a little bit it throws out some commentary here and there on like the how Japanese people treat homosexuality and how it's a little bit problematic, but for the most part a nice love story. And then Citrus is a show that came out by the same people, by the same artist, by the same manga artist and writer. And I started watching it, and I got very uncomfortable, and I thought I should stop watching this now, but I kept thinking there's got to be a way around this. There's got to be a way that this isn't uncomfortable anymore. And I think this is where it came from, John. So are you a fan of Studio Ghibli, however you want to pronounce it?
Yeah.
So they came out with a film in recent years. It's probably a lot less recent now than when I bought it, but it was a film called Up on Poppy Hill, I think it was called. I can't remember what the film title was, but it's basically about these 2 characters that fall in love and then find out that they're potentially brother and sister. And throughout the movie, I'm very uncomfortable, but at the end of the movie, it turns out they weren't brother and sister, and they fall in love, and it's happy. Okay, so after watching that movie, then going into Citrus, I was like, well, maybe it's creepy now, but they'll find a way out of it. But the show just kept getting creepier, kept getting more uncomfortable, and it hit a point where I was like, I should stop. But I watched like 5 more episodes, and I wish, John, I could go back in time and stop myself, because I think about those episodes sometimes, and I think about how someone sat down and not only drew that, but then published it.
Then someone else animated it.
And then someone else animated it. And people are going to think it's really bad. It's not really bad. Like, it's nothing gory. It's nothing technically like biologically incestuous. It's just kind of through marriage and stuff. But it still deals with, and I'm sure that the people who wrote it didn't think of it this way, but the facts are the facts. It deals with like sexual assault, but in a way that is like, ha!
Isn't this cute?
And like, that really rubs me the wrong way. And I get that it's a completely different culture, but I can't control what culture I'm from either, So I wish I could go back and. Whereas Naruto, I don't regret watching all these terrible episodes of Naruto because it gives me fun stories, and I still got to hang out with my brother. This is one that I really do feel like I wish I could just go back in time.
I think I remember Crunchyroll doing like a National Sibling Day, whatever thing. No, it was a Valentine's Day card of the 2 characters from Citrus, and everyone's like, "Really?"
It's not a healthy relationship. It is not a healthy relationship. And I'm not saying you have to depict healthy relationships all the time.
I was going to say, Mr. Telling Art what to do.
No, but that's the thing. You don't have to. You don't have to depict healthy relationships. Sleeping with the Enemy is a fantastic movie. I think that's a great movie. Obviously, the opposite of a healthy relationship. But it doesn't mean that I have to be comfortable watching it.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want in art, as long as I have the right to go, ugh.
Nope.
So I don't know, dude. I don't know. I don't know where the responsibility of the artist lies. I guess that's the point of this episode for me. I don't know, as artists, if it's our responsibility to make people uncomfortable and then make them ask questions about that. I've been thinking a lot about that recently. I don't know if that came through, but
well, that's the interesting thing about like stand-up comedy, I think.
Yes.
It's very interesting because the idea of a stand-up comic is that you're supposed to create tension. You're supposed to create tension, and then you normally, 9 times out of 10, you alleviate that tension.
Yes.
And the interesting thing is that the audience thanks you for alleviating that tension. They're like, oh man, it was getting intense here. We appreciate that. Thank you for making us laugh. It's like, no, I'm the one that created that.
Yeah.
I'm the one that made you feel that way.
I just
so
tricked you into thinking that it was something else.
Yeah. how where that thing is of like, all right, well, how uncomfortable are you allowed to make people? How far, what is that social contract that you've signed when you walk into a stand-up comic show?
Mm. I saw a God, this is such a weird sentence. I saw Leslie Jones on The View with Whoopi Goldberg, and she was having a rant. Maybe a rant is a bit of a mean way to put it, because it wasn't really like they asked her a question and she responded, but she just responded very adamantly. She
Yeah,
was talking
she's
about how,
passionate.
yeah, passionately. But just because this is YouTube, you speak YouTube language. Rant is like those words, that you
Yeah,
use, like, oh, YouTube rant. She talked adamantly about how you cannot suppress comedians, because comedians' job is to be like, let's push the boundaries. Let's see what we can do. Let's try to make comedy out of this terrible shit. And she talked about how comedians, they have to make mistakes. They have to go too far so that they know where to go. And like how before comedians could go too far because it would just be a room of like 100, 200 people. And then that audience would go, oh, that was too far. And then they'd be able to correct. But these days, if you go too far, the whole world knows, because we live
yeah.
in a world where, and then that same day, I watched an episode of Full Frontal with Samantha Bee, where she was talking about how comedians shouldn't make a specific type of joke. Now, to be fair, the joke was dark. She was talking about how it's still okay to make, male rape jokes. Like, oh, don't drop the soap in prison and stuff. And how that's not okay. But it was like this weird dichotomy in there where I was like, I kind of agree with both of them. I agree
Yeah.
with Samantha Bee that it's weird that that's okay to make, but it's not okay to make female rape jokes. But then I also agree with Leslie Jones that you got to allow people to make the jokes that they make. It's like, it's this weird, like, and like, I want to be okay with not knowing. I want to, in my heart, and I don't know if you feel this way, but I want to, on some topics, be like, hey, maybe I just don't have the answer yet and I'll give it time. But the internet keeps telling me that I need to make a choice. I need to choose a side.
Oh,
Like,
I just the amount of anxiety I get from being a literal nobody that gets like one or two favorites on one of my tweets. Feeling like if I put something out there, like, because sometimes I'm like, okay, cool. A whole bunch of people are like, yeah, James Gunn,
yes.
for example. A whole bunch of people I saw on my Twitter feed were like, he should get reinstated. This is
Yes.
bullshit. And
Yes.
I was like, okay, cool. And then I saw like one person who was against that, and I was like, wait a minute, wait a minute. How do we feel? Hold on. What's the consensus? I need there to be a group email that goes out that says, hey, are you like a socially liberal person who believes in these things? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, cool. We're gonna send you an email when a situation happens. This is our thought on it.
You can't be like
And
that.
I can go, cool guys. This is how I agree with it.
That is the problem, though, John. That is the issue that we live in. We can't be individuals. It's okay to be offended. It's 100% okay to be offended. But it's also okay to not be offended, I think. And I think that's the problem. And I think people... I don't know, John. I'm just freaking out, dude. I'm freaking out. I was talking about this with my friend Reese a lot. My friend Reese is a very, 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 very funny person, but he deals... His deck of cards is filled with line breakers, and he pushes them and sometimes they don't work. Sometimes I don't laugh,
Yeah.
but I don't hold him to it. I don't. The worst I'll do is, oof, maybe you shouldn't say that to your mother. Like, but I don't. You don't do that in person. If someone says a bad joke in person, now granted, if it's the first time you meet someone and someone says a really bad joke, then yeah, maybe you're getting a bad impression. But if you know someone, like, and they do something bad, you go, hey man, maybe don't do that bad thing, but I'm still gonna laugh at all your other jokes. But now it's like, I don't know, John, sorry, it's 2 a.m. I'm getting introspective in this mother. So I'm just gonna call it there, I think. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, John. Oh, I'm squirming in
Cameron
my
has a mental
chair.
breakdown at the end of the episode.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Oh,
I'm feeling a bit weird, dude. I'm feeling a bit not. I came from quite a bad place recently, and now I'm in a good place. But it's causing me to, those things you don't care about when you're in a bad place. You're like,
yeah.
it's not important enough. Now I'm worrying about those things again. Now that I'm in a good place, I'm worrying about all the shit that shouldn't take up my space. Like, what should I say on Twitter?
See, that's the great thing about like realizing that I don't have a platform. But then someone's gonna be like, "Yes, you do. You have everyone has a platform." But I'm like, no, it's the same like two people that give a shit about what I post. But then the thing
Hmm.
is that you get famous, and then everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I guess I still hold out this hope that I'm gonna get famous. I think that's the problem.
I. That's an interest. We talked about this
Yeah.
on the newest episode of the Man on Fire Films podcast, hashtag spoilers,
Oh,
where we talk about how, like, what are your expectations? Where do you make stuff? And it used to be, as a kid, you used to be, oh, I'm going to get famous, I'm going to make a bunch of money from YouTube and be able to do it for as a full-time job. But you kind of have to switch, and you kind of have to be like, no, I'm doing this for the 4 people that like it. And I'm doing this for myself. And I think those 4 people and myself are more important than the imaginary thousands and thousands of people that you think would care. Because, like, when I do Wi-Fi Friends videos now, and maybe this isn't why I do them a lot. Maybe this is why I don't do them a lot. But, like, I'll do them only if I think that I'm gonna enjoy them, and I'm gonna enjoy them,
yeah.
and you're gonna enjoy them. And if I'm sitting, I've been sitting there doing the 4th take on a fucking Dark Knight video, wanting to get it out before the anniversary, and then I was like, you know what, fuck this. Like, I'm not enjoying this anymore. Like, I'm not saying the words I want to say. So why would I make it for, the people that aren't gonna enjoy it either if my heart isn't in it? So I think that you want to get to a place, and this is Cameron's hot opinion. Get to a place where you can just make things for the people that want to see it, like don't make things for people that don't exist.
That's hard.
God,
Yeah.
Jesus, what happened? Dude, it got weird.
Oh,
It
I
got
know,
weird,
but
friends.
Cameron,
Yes, John.
let us go then, you and I, when the night is young, and the stars are ablaze in the sky, to a place where happiness is just a dream away.
When you wish upon a star.
There's no you.
Dreams come
Oh,
true.
true.